I never expected my husband's abuse, but my CEO father's fortune changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My world, once bright and filled with laughter, came crashing down like shards of glass hitting the cold, hard floor. Nothing felt safe anymore. I still hear the echo of those accusing words, even now, as I sit alone in this empty room, the silence heavy against my chest. I was lost then. Confused and terrified, I clutched my phone tightly, my trembling hands betraying the calm facade I tried so hard to maintain. The walls of my home felt like they were closing in. The soft scent of lilacs from the garden outside clashed with the bitterness in my heart. I had always believed that love would protect me. Love had promised a happy ever after. But who knew that my prince could turn out to be my biggest nightmare? Tom's laughter, once a melody of joy, morphed into a sinister laugh that rang out in my mind, taunting me. I can still remember the way his eyes changed when he got angry, darkened, frigid, unrecognizable. My heart raced as the memories flooded back, every confrontation replaying like a painful movie reel. I thought I could endure anything, until I couldn't. The bruises on my skin reminded me of the bruises on my heart. Each thump of my racing pulse described my fear. It wasn't just Tom, though. My father's towering shadow loomed large. My CEO father, the epitome of success, powerful yet distant. He had created an empire from nothing while I had been spoiled, silly, unprepared for life's cruel indifference. The family wealth was supposed to shield me. Yet, here I was, my father's fortune blind to my silent suffering. Would he even care if he knew? Or would it just be one more scandal to bury beneath boardroom agendas? I felt invisible, swallowed by secrets, entangled in threads of deception. Every day was a delicate balance. My friends, oblivious to my reality, would gush over how blessed I was to be part of such an influential family. They had no idea that sometimes love had a price, one that I feared would continue to rise. I noticed the boys at school, the way they looked at me with envy. If only they knew the truth hidden behind my designer dresses and lavish parties, the truth woven tightly amid hearts breaking and dreams shattered. There was a spark of hope within me, a flicker that kept me going as I tried to hide behind smiles and laughter. But with each passing day, I felt that flicker extinguish. The darkness loomed, a desperate harbinger of doom. My pulse quickened, and the world around me began to blur. The weight of the unspeakable pressed down so hard that I wished for escape more than anything. Without warning, my phone buzzed, shattering my thoughts. One message: we need to talk. That familiar knot twisted in my stomach. It was Tom. My mind raced. What could he want now? Had he caught on to my secret plans? The tension was thick like fog, obscuring everything. With every heartbeat, I deliberated: take the plunge and confront my fears, or hide forever behind the lies. The choice felt monumental, but I knew I couldn't run from my reality anymore. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun crept through the curtains, casting long shadows across the room. It felt mocking in its brightness, as though it was cackling at my vulnerability. I wished for a storm instead, a torrential downpour that could wash away my pain, but instead, I was met with the mundane reminder of another day in my fractured reality. As I sat there, my heart thudded loudly in my ears, drowning out the chirping of birds outside. Tom's message had catapulted me into a whirlwind of anxiety. I replayed our last conversation over and over, each word becoming sharper, more dangerous. We need to talk. The 4 words weighed on me like an anchor, threatening to drag me deeper into the abyss. A moment of clarity washed over me. I pulled out my phone and typed a response. When and where? My fingers hovered nervously over the send button. There was power in this, the moment where I took control. But my resolve shattered as I hit send. What was I stepping into? Each second felt like an eternity, the anxiety swirling in my stomach, consuming me. While I waited, I thought of Brianna, the one person who had always seen through my polished exterior. She was tenacious and fearless, always diving into whatever storm her heart desired. How I envied her spirit. We had laughed together, shared dreams that now felt so distant. Maybe I could call her, confide in her what was happening. But deep down, I feared the truth would tarnish her view of me. That perfect facade couldn't crack. The message pinged in a flurry. Tom's location, a cafe downtown. A former haunt that had once felt like a sanctuary of possibility. Now it felt like a trap, one I would walk into willingly. I wanted to gather my courage, but a shiver of doubt settled over me. Even in the bright daylight, there were shadows waiting to swallow me whole. As I drove to the cafe, I forced in deep breaths, summoning fragments of hope. Perhaps Tom had changed, perhaps he was willing to apologize. Each flicker brought light, but there was a looming darkness pulling at my edges. I parked, my palms clammy and heart racing as I made my way inside. The aroma of roasted coffee beans filled the air, battling my jitters momentarily. I spotted him slumped in a booth, fingers entwined with each other as he stared into a cup in front of him. I wanted to believe he would look up and see the Emma who was capable of dreaming and living beyond her pain, but instead, it was the image of my husband that struck fear within me. "Hey," I said, sliding into the booth across from him. His eyes flicked up, revealing a storm brewing within. It scared me. I felt small, like a speck in a vast universe, at the mercy of something greater than myself. "Thanks for coming," Tom nodded, his voice hoarse. "We need to talk about us." My breath caught. The words hung in the air, dense with unspoken threats. Would this be the moment he revealed his true self, or would it be a chance at redemption? I was trapped within the duality of hope and dread. The conversation began to unfold, his words slithering through the atmosphere like impending danger. Each confession rolled off his tongue steeped in regret, yet laced with a bitterness I hadn't expected. Gradually, the truth began to unfurl, showing me something both startling and horrifying. Tom claimed he had spoken with my father. "What do you mean you've spoken to him?" I felt a chill creep up my spine. My thoughts raced. No way would my father get involved. Our family was a fortress that concealed its cracks with layers of influence and secrecy. I mean, he hesitated, studying my face. "He's willing to help me help us if I change." Help? It felt like a blade cutting through the fog of my fears, exposing the raw reality of the situation. My father's help, contingent on some unholy alliance with Tom? Could I let that happen? As I watched Tom's fingers tremble, a part of me ached for him, while another screamed at me to run. I wanted to lash out, to reject him, to protect the remnants of my sanity. But then, a soft voice cut through the chaos. A server, noticing my distress, approached with a gentle smile, placing a cup of steaming tea in front of me. "This one's on the house," she said, her kind eyes meeting mine. In that instant, I felt a shred of warmth in the void. For just a breath, I was seen beyond the chaos that engulfed me. But it was cut short by Tom's dark gaze returning to me, filled with an energy I couldn't quite decipher. "You have to give me a chance, Emma. You have to trust me." Trust? The word hung heavy, a rope dangling between us, ready to snap at any moment. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, he leaned closer, his voice lower now, threaded with desperation. "I can change, but you have to let me. Your father believes in me. I can be the husband you wanted, just give it time." His plea pricked at my heartstrings as the world around us faded away. "Tom," before I could finish, my father's voice echoed in my mind, jagged and unmistakable. The sudden realization gripped my throat. What if this was all elaborately orchestrated? What if my father had pitted me against my husband to protect his reputation? Panic surged within me as I locked eyes with Tom, the tension at the table thickening like a storm about to break. Little did I know that the reality I had known was about to unravel further into chaos. "Emma," he whispered, urgency in his tone, "you have to trust me. That's all I'm asking." But as I sat there, straddling the line between losing myself or finding the strength to fight back, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I'd known was about to fracture. The cafe seemed to swirl around me, and with it, the shadows of my past creeping closer. Would I uncover the truth before it was too late, or would I be left grappling in darkness, lost forever? The cafe hummed around us, a melody of soft chatter and clinking cups, juxtaposed against the storm brewing between Tom and me. I could feel the pulse of my heart echoing in my ears, a desperate drum signaling the quagmire I was sinking into or perhaps escaping from. "Emma, please," Tom implored, his voice strained yet earnest, layered with a weight that made my chest tighten. "I need you to believe I can be better." Belief, such a powerful word, yet so frayed in our hands now. I wanted to believe in love, in redemption, in the whispered hopes of a better future. But underneath the surface of my longing was a tide of skepticism. I could feel it threatening to drown my fragile optimism. "Tom," I began, holding my breath, "you can't just ask for trust. It's earned." My words were softly spoken yet laced with steel. I needed him to understand that this wasn't merely about him anymore. This was about putting my heart on the line, once again, for the sake of our union, no matter how tattered it had become. His expression faltered, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through the bravado he had so carefully constructed. "I know I've made mistakes," but his voice trailed off, and the air around us thickened with unshared words. He glanced down at his trembling hands as though they held the secrets we both feared to voice. A small part of me wanted him to open up further, to confess his fears about my father, about the hold he had on us both. But the weight of the truth hovered like an unseen specter, casting shadows over Tom's every sentiment. I took a sip of the warm tea the server had kindly provided. It felt like a balm against my rising anxiety. The warmth spread through me, urging me to seek clarity, yet each moment spent in Tom's presence pulled me deeper into confusion. "I need to know more," I whispered, feeling the tremor in my own voice. "About you, about what you've discussed with my father. It's important." Tom shifted in his seat, the desperation morphing into something darker, something I couldn't quite place. "It's not just about me," he replied, his tone sharpened with urgency. "Your father, he's got plans for both of us. This isn't just about saving our marriage." The implication behind his words curled my stomach into knots. I thought of my father, the man who had always seemed impervious to any crack in his armor, who orchestrated everything from behind a curtain. "What plans?" I urged, panic clawing at my throat. "We can start a new life," he said, leaning in closer, a conspiratorial whisper now taunting the space between us. "Your father wants to expand his empire with me as one of the faces. If I play my cards right, if we work together, I could be someone important, someone who actually counts." A chill skittered over my skin at the thought of my father manipulating us both for some grand scheme. He always excelled at hiding his true motives. It was like the invisible strings of a puppet master pulling at us both without us ever knowing. "But why?" I breathed. "Why would he back you? After everything?" "Because he knows I can be a means to an end, Emma." He paused, searching my eyes for understanding. "Your father knows the strength in image, in perception. I could be the man who has changed, the husband who redeemed himself, with his guidance." I felt the room spin, fragments of shock clawing at my heart. It dawned on me that I was caught in a web of emotional upheaval, being maneuvered around like a piece in a game I never signed up for. A server approached, setting down a fresh scone, breaking through the heavy tension. "Try this, it's really good," she said cheerily, looking between our faces, oblivious to the brewing storm. I forced a weak smile, grateful for the small kindness in her gesture, momentarily distracting me from the chaos. "Yes, thank you," Tom replied, almost automatically, yet his focus never left my face. "Emma, you have to see this as a chance." "A chance for you," I muttered, feeling bitterness rise in my throat. "What about a chance for me? For us?" The cafe around us faded, replaced by a battleground of loyalty and fear. If you believe in me, if you believe in us, we can shift the narrative, he continued, his tone desperate enough to remind me of everything we had once shared, a life filled with laughter, connection, and passion. But now, the specter of my father hung heavy over our conversation, distorting every promise made in love. A shudder passed over Tom's face as if my words had struck some unguarded nerve. Can't you see? He pressed, his voice dropping to a near whisper, your father orchestrated our lives even before we knew it. If we don't take this opportunity, we'll both be crushed under the weight of his designs. For a moment, doubt clouded my thoughts. Maybe my father's plans were more omnipresent than I had ever realized. Yet did I truly want to risk everything I had known to bind myself to a man whose past was riddled with pain? An unsettling silence loomed over us, thick as fog. Just then, a notification chimed softly from my phone lying amidst the crumbs on the table. I glanced down, my stomach dropping. A message from my mother, an ominous warning, be careful. He's not who you think he is. My heart raced. The little slivers of hope that had knit themselves into my resolve unraveled in an instant, leaving me standing precariously at the edge of a chasm. Tom's gaze scrutinized me, reading each flicker of change in my expression. I saw the fear reflected in his eyes, but it swam beneath the surface of determination. Hey, you okay? He asked gently, masking his true concern. But the question struck deep, spinning inwards, leaving me uncertain whether I had ever been okay. I had to choose a path, one that could either lead to salvation or my ultimate undoing. The cafe buzzed along, oblivious to my turmoil, while the shadows of my doubts threatened to consume everything I had left. I needed to decide, could I shatter the illusions birthed in these walls, step into the unknown, or would I let my family's legacy bind me forever in an intricate dance of fear and regret? As my fingertips brushed the screen, I felt the urge to throw my phone across the cafe, to shatter the soothing facade of this ordinary place where nothing felt ordinary anymore. My mother's warning echoed harshly, demanding my attention. Emma, what is it? Tom pressed, his voice low but urgent, a haunting reminder of every moment I had tried to keep between us. I was teetering on the edge, desperate for clarity, yet it felt as though every choice spiraled further into chaos. It's my mother. She thinks you're deceiving me, I admitted, bracing myself for the fallout. His brows knitted together, and for a second, I recognized the vulnerability in his eyes, a raw sense of helplessness mingling with anger. She doesn't know anything about me, he spat, the words sharp and quick like shards of glass. She's the last person you should trust, Emma. Look how she treated you all those years. Each accusation clawed at me, fueling the whirlwind inside. Love and loyalty collided with hurt and betrayal. You think I haven't considered that? I shot back, the tension snapping like a tightrope underfoot. Then why not give me a chance? Tom leaned in closer, desperation tipping the scales of our conversation. If you don't see this for what it is, we might lose everything, including each other. As if on cue, the cafe door swung open, a gust of wind blowing in from the gray, clouded day outside. It felt like a metaphor for my life, a world that had blurred between clarity and confusion. Then, at that very moment, a familiar figure stepped inside, Carla, my childhood friend, and a ghost from a simpler past. The sight of her and the way her eyes widened in recognition snapped my focus away from Tom. Emma, she called, an unexpected note of joy slicing through the tension. But the concern settled quickly on her face as she shifted her gaze to Tom, lingering for just a moment too long. Hey, Carla, I waved, forcing a smile, not acknowledging the tension that hung between us like woven thread. She hurried over, her presence a balm against the storm. I didn't think I'd see you here. Everything okay? Her eyes flitted suspiciously between Tom and me. Just having a chat, I replied, my heart racing. I could use her grounding energy to navigate the storm roiling inside. Perhaps she could see the rift I was caught between. Right, she said, her brow furrowing. Is this about him? Yes, I muttered, my voice a mere whisper. The way she scrutinized him, her instinctual hesitance, fired fresh doubt in me. Maybe I was weaving a mirage of righteousness instead of facing the truth. Tom shifted in his seat, irritation flaring. "Look, we were in the middle of something," he interjected defensively, a line of frustration tightening his features. Carla's eyes never left his face. "You know, it's not too late to walk away, Em. Sometimes you have to consider your well-being over someone else's promises." My heart thundered as her words hung in the air. The past few months had compressed into a single moment, laughter shared, nights spent dreaming about futures that now felt elusive. "You don't understand," I protested, a knot in my throat threatening to take my voice. "He has the chance to change. We both do." The disbelief washed over Carla, shadows appearing in the depths of the warmth we had shared, and it hurt to see it. "I do understand, Emma. But change can be a facade. You're worth more than a gamble founded on someone else's past." A smothering silence loomed as Tom clenched his jaw, resentment bubbling beneath the surface. "Why are you putting her at risk, Carla?" His statement hung in the air, heavy and charged, as if dousing the lingering hope with a chill. "Tom, stop," I pleaded, squeezing my eyes shut, feeling the weight of his anger pressing against my chest. But beneath the fury, I felt something else, the stirring uncertainty of what I truly wanted. A wave of nostalgia washed over me, memories of carefree afternoons spent with Carla and the laughter that often dissolved into tears when my emotions overwhelmed me. It dawned on me that the more we tried to navigate forwards, the more tangled the knots of our past became. Turning back to Tom, I found his gaze pleading in its intensity, tinged with a fear I had never seen before. "I will always choose you, Emma. Just trust me," he whispered. It was a raw, open plea, and for a heartbeat, it tugged at something buried deep within me, threatening to extract its glow. Yet, as the shadows lengthened around us, doubt crept in once again. Who were we playing for in this game constructed by others? Just when I believed I might muster the courage to answer, a cacophony erupted outside, shaking the comforting ambience of the cafe. Screams. Sirens. I darted towards the window, heart racing. A black SUV sat idling on the side of the street, its dark windows framing the chaos. Figures argued with raised hands. My breath caught in my throat as one of the voices grew louder, a man's yell slicing through the clamor. "Get out of the way. You have no idea what you're all caught in." A chill swept through me, freezing the moment in its tracks. Words echoed in my mind, the entire world collapsing into catastrophic uncertainty as I realized, this was no coincidence. "Emma, what's happening?" Tom asked, anxiety edging his voice. I turned back to see his face pale with alarm, the shifting tide of fear laying bare the big picture, the dark corners I had been too frightened to face before. This isn't just about us, is it?" I whispered, grappling with the sudden weight of impending dread. As the reality settled like a heavy fog, my phone beeped again, this time a barrage of messages from unknown numbers, warnings and threats spilling from the screen. Each buzz a hammer against the fragile veneer of my life, cracks widening in the facade before me, and just like that, the stakes rose impossibly high. The future I had prayed to reclaim now blurred, enveloped in shadows stretching out toward an uncertain darkness. I couldn't shake the feeling everything was about to unravel, and no one would emerge unscathed. The world outside the cafe faded into an ominous blur, the chaos beneath the darkening sky echoing the turmoil in my heart. It felt as though I was teetering over a precipice, and with each breath, the air became heavier with confusion and fear. "Emma, please, what's going on?" Tom's voice sliced through the fog, urgent yet tremulous. He glanced back at the window, the unmistakable tension in his posture a visceral reminder that we were time-traveling through a present that was shifting beneath our feet. I turned my phone over in my trembling hands, the screen flashing like an angry creature demanding my attention. Each unknown number brought new weight to the thickness of the air, each word a thorn pricking my consciousness. "I don't know, it's all a blur," I managed, my voice quaking as the messages poured forth, nonsensical threats ringing hollow in the cafe's hum. Carla, having taken a step back, observed us both with a mixture of concern and determination. Emma, we need to get out of here, she urged, eyes darting between the chaos outside and Tom's crouched figure. Whatever this is, it's bigger than your argument. We can't stay. Wait, Tom interjected, an edge of frustration lacing his words. We can't just run without figuring out what's going on. I can't lose you, not to fear. Suddenly, the clashing voices outside grew louder, the tension between those shouting spilling into the cafe like a dark tide. A moment later, the door swung open, and a tall man in a dark suit stormed in, his eyes scanning the cafe like a bloodhound on a scent. Emma Steele? He barked, his voice cutting like a knife. My heart sank, uncoiling raw panic inside me. You need to come with me, now. I was swept up in a flood of confusion. Who are you? My voice trembled, and the weight of my mother's warnings flocked back about people wanting to take advantage of me, about needing to be careful with trust. Everything inside me screamed to resist. It's not safe, I'm with security, he insisted, utterly unfazed. Your father sent me. You're in immediate danger. A cold chill wrapped around my spine as my gaze snapped to Carla, her wide eyes mirrored my shock. Emma, this isn't just about your relationship or your life, it's about something deeper, isn't it? She whispered, a flicker of the childhood bond we shared sparking back to life. Your father wants you away from this mess, away from him, the man clarified, gesturing sharply toward Tom, who was still reeling from what room he was being thrust into. No. You don't understand. I cried, panic clawing at my throat. I can't just leave him. He needs me. I need him. The empathic tether that had once flickered between Tom and me felt like it was about to slip into darkness. Tom's response came slowly, a pendulum swinging from panic to resolve. Emma, you have to protect yourself, he's right. If your name is at the center of this, it could destroy everything we've built. Each word fell like stone, gravely serious, crashing into the fragile facade of hope I had clung to. His innate fear for me battled with his own considered emotions. Had it come to this, where I had to choose between trust and survival, suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, reverberating through the cafe walls, sending shards of panic further inside. People gasped, and I felt frozen, every fiber of my being battling to comprehend. Emma now. The man barked again, pulling me toward the exit, urgency weighing heavily on his words. No. Tom. I cried out, my voice quaking as my fingers clawed the edge of my memories, unwilling to leave him. An inexplicable bond held me captive. All I could think was how seemingly simple moments had now twisted into impossible choices. I'll be fine. Just go. He yelled, but even that didn't feel convincing. The panic in his voice reached my core. There were depths in Tom that I was only beginning to understand. The father I had only glimpsed through fragmented conversations and half-formed truths was suddenly looming larger than life. In that whirlwind of decision, I felt a hand clasp mine unexpectedly. Carla had stepped forward, her resolve hardening into something fierce. I'm coming with you, Emma. You won't face this alone. The instant comfort of her presence triggered a cascade of memories. The laughter, the fights, and the endless support had woven an unbreakable bond over the years. But the looming threat from the outside world brought a bitter taste to my heart. As I took a shaky step toward the exit, Tom's eyes bore into mine, shimmering with a kaleidoscope of emotional threads entwined with fear and resolve. Whatever happens, Emma, remember that I'm here, he whispered with a vulnerability that threw me off balance. We'll figure this out. But before I could respond, the man physically ushered me through the door and into the chill of uncertainty, a claustrophobic sense of being not just outside the cafe, but outside my own life. The chaotic atmosphere engulfed me as I turned back, yearning for the warmth I had found in Tom's gaze. But as I turned, the sight of him standing there, a silhouette framed against the cafe's warm light, alone struck me hard. The truth lingered. I had just walked away from everything I thought I knew about love. A cacophony of sounds rose again, and as the man led us to a sleek waiting car, a voice echoed through the throng, piercing the atmosphere. Don't you see? It's only just beginning. A click of fear settled in my stomach as I turned, dread now taking root alongside the longing ache. We hadn't unraveled all the threads. No, the threads were tightening, pulling us into a web I couldn't yet imagine. As the door slammed behind me, sealing my fate, the last shred of hope felt painfully far from my grasp, dangling teeteringly at the edge of whatever awaited us in the dark. The car lurched forward, the engine's growl harmonizing with the escalating chaos behind us. I gripped the edge of the seat, my thoughts spiraling like autumn leaves caught in a storm. Carla sat beside me, her brow furrowed with worry, her small hand squeezing mine tightly as if our combined strength could push back against the suffocating uncertainty that coiled around us. "What do you think he meant?" she murmured, staring out of the tinted window, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," I replied, the truth clawing at my throat. "But it can't be good." It felt almost absurd to say, considering we were already entrenched in a situation that had turned upside down within seconds. I chanced a glance over my shoulder, the cafe fading into a blur, a bitter reminder of the normalcy that had vanished so swiftly. The man in the dark suit, the commander of our escape, sat rigidly in the front, his hands gripping the wheel. He hadn't given his name, and somehow, that only heightened my anxiety. I was enveloped in a cocoon of strangers with unknown directives, the world outside appearing both familiar and foreign as we rushed away. "Where are you taking us?" I dared to ask, the tremor in my voice betraying my composure. "To a safe location," he replied tersely, his eyes fixed intently on the road, "but first, you need to understand the gravity of the situation." I exchanged a glance with Carla, and a flicker of fear ignited within me. What did he know that we didn't? "Why now?" I pressed, urgency spilling over my voice. "What danger am I in, really?" He sighed, a weary exhalation that spoke to a world saturated in shadows. "Your father has enemies, Emma. He keeps a lot of secrets, and now those secrets are surfacing. They've drawn attention to you, and they won't hesitate to get what they want." With every revelation, I felt the world condense tighter around me, heavy and pressing as if the very air wished to drown me. "Enemies?" Carla's voice sliced through my spiraling thoughts, her disbelief palpable. "What could they possibly want with her?" He glanced briefly at us in the rearview mirror, eyes narrowing. "Not just her. They want what she represents. Your father is a target because of his wealth and influence. And anyone close to him, anyone perceived to be vulnerable, is also at risk." A pulse of anger coursed through me, igniting a spark in the depths of my desperation. "I'm not a pawn in this game. I refuse to be used." The words erupted from me, raw and fierce, echoing against the car's polished interior. "It's not about you, it's about survival," he countered, the edge of his voice tempered with urgency. "You need to listen to me. You're in the eye of a storm you didn't know existed." Silence blanketed the car. Carla's hand faltered for a moment, her grip loosening before tightening again. I searched her face for answers, for reassurance, but all I found was the same unease reflected back at me. Minutes passed, each tick of the clock punctuated by the anxiety crawling up my spine. My heart ached acutely for Tom, left behind with just the chaos and uncertainty. What if I never returned? Didn't he deserve to know the truth? But with the truth came danger, and the knowledge that I might be dragging him deeper into a web woven with treachery. When the car finally slowed and pulled into a dimly lit parking garage, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Relief mingled with confusion, battling for dominance. "Where are we?" I asked, swallowing hard, the taste of fear sharpening on my tongue. "Safe for now." He opened the door and stepped out, motioning for us to follow. The clank of metal echoed ominously in the enclosed space. Shadows loomed around us, their shapes connoting both refuge and danger. I stepped into the strange dim light, uncertainty licking at my ankles like the cold concrete floor beneath my feet. As we walked, the man led us through a series of winding corridors that felt labyrinthine. My heart raced with every step, unsure what awaited us at the end. The walls closed in like a tight embrace, suffocating yet oddly comforting. After a few moments, he stopped abruptly, turning to face us. This is where you will be until your father can ensure your safety. I suggest you gear up for a change in perspective. His gaze bore into mine, intensity flickering in the depths. What you thought was true is about to be turned inside out. Tell us what's happening. Carla insisted, stepping forward, her protective nature flaring up. The man shifted uncomfortably. You'll learn soon enough, but for now he hesitated, the weight of a decision hanging heavily between us. You should know that your father isn't the man you think he is. A wave of confusion crashed over me, each word washing over my hopes and fears like a tide threatening to pull me under. What do you mean? Before he could answer, a sudden ear-splitting siren pierced through the hushed air, sending adrenaline coursing through my veins. The man's eyes widened in horror. They've found us. We need to move, now. Panic seized me, my heart pounding unbearably loud in my chest. This wasn't just about escaping danger anymore, it was about uncovering my father's truth, and in the face of chaos, it felt like a race against time, a race that could unravel everything I thought I knew about loyalty, safety, and who I really was. As we sprinted down the dim corridor, Carla lagging slightly behind, I felt the subtle shift within me, the urgency of understanding something greater, darker, was beginning to take shape. I had to face whatever shadows lay ahead, whatever the revelation about my father would entail, even if it threatened to tear apart the fragile fabric of my world. And just as I rounded the corner, a startling realization gripped me. It wasn't just my father's fortune that was at stake, it was my very life, intertwined with danger I had only begun to fathom. As chaos erupted behind us, confusion ignited again, the thread of hope dangerously frayed, and I could almost hear Tom's remaining words echo back to me. Whatever happens, remember that I'm here. But was he really, or was he lost to my choice? The line between trust and survival was narrowing, and in that moment, I felt it all slip further from my grasp. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously as we hurried through the narrow passage, an eerie hum resonating off the concrete walls. My mind raced, grappling with the implications of the man's warning, like shadows spilling forth from a chalice, dark and unpredictable. Each sharp turn led us further into the unknown, an endless maze of fear and uncertainty. Keep up! The man barked, glancing back at us with a hardened expression. We don't have time for, he faltered, and I nearly crashed into him when he abruptly stopped at a heavy metal door. He slammed his palm against the intercom, the buzz echoing ominously. My heart beat in my throat, an incessant reminder of how fragile our situation felt, poised on the edge of catastrophe. What's beyond that door? Carla whispered, her voice trembling, yet her resolve strong as she clutched my hand in a grip that seemed to anchor me amid the rising tide of dread. A safe room, he replied, though the way he spoke made it sound like a last resort rather than a sanctuary. It's equipped with everything you need to survive until we can transport you. Before I could digest this new layer of reality, the door swung open. A sterile white room emerged, furnished with bare essentials, a few cots, a table strewn with tools and supplies, a wall-mounted screen flickering to life. Go in, he urged, his urgency palpable, eyes darting. And stay quiet. The three of us stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind us with a deafening thud that felt final, isolating us from the world of chaos outside. I turned, leaning against the door as if it could keep the dark forces at bay, not just those chasing us but the gnawing questions eating at my soul. In the stifling silence, I looked around, forcing myself to focus on details to ground me. An emergency kit labeled survival caught my eye. I could barely breathe as I imagined all it might contain. What could one even survive in a world ripped apart by deceit and danger? Carla's fingers brushed against a tablet lying on the table, illuminating her expression. Look, she said, her voice quickening with discovery. She tapped the screen, pulling up news alerts and surveillance feeds. There's too much happening at once. We need to know what's really going on. The images flickered, news anchors relaying catastrophic reports of unrest, violence, protests, and even thefts escalating in the city, but what caught my attention most were the clips of my father, his face as recognizable as it was unsettling. I gasped as the headlines flashed across the screen. Business tycoon under investigation. Corruption scandal rocks major corporations. Every second my heart sank deeper. What are they saying? The tremor in my voice wasn't just fear, it was betrayal pulling beneath my skin. Listen, Carla urged, her eyes glued to the screen as she replayed a video where my father was being escorted away in handcuffs, the camera flashes behaving more like gunfire than light. The sensationalism surrounding him made it seem as though he was a dictator in a third-rate thriller rather than the man I had idolized. This doesn't make sense, I muttered, hands shaking as I scrolled through the feed. He always told me he was working to help others, build a better community. I think he was helping himself, the man interjected sharply, and I turned to him, fury igniting at his insolence. Your father's empire is built on lies. And those lies have attracted danger that won't just threaten him, it threatens you too. Who are you to talk? You only just crashed into our lives, my heart pounded with accusation. Tell me what you know. But he stood his ground, unflinching and resolute. What I know is that he is responsible for much worse than you can imagine. And now, the past is coming back to haunt you both. We can't afford to trust anyone right now. Blind faith could cost you everything. Great. Let's just drop all the family loyalty, I spat, feeling my heart split between loyalty to a father I loved and betrayal by a man whose motives felt unclear. We have bigger problems, Carla interrupted, her voice edged with fear as she hurriedly gestured toward the screen. A breaking news alert caught my eye, a break-in at our family estate, chaos unfolding as masked figures surged throughout the property, seizing documents, valuables, anything that had value. My breath caught in my throat. What are they looking for? It doesn't matter, the man's voice grew colder, his eyes narrowing. We need to focus. If they think you or your father have something they want, they'll stop at nothing to find it. As reality crashed around me, swirling like an endless storm, I remembered Tom and how naive I had been, building castles in the air instead of preparing for the truth. He had always warned me of digging too deep into the polished surface of his life, weaving webs of comfort when reality was rife with danger. And now, all at once, I felt the weight of regret crashing against the fragile confidence I had in everything I believed possible. A knock at the door interrupted my spiraling thoughts. The man jerked into action, moving to the door with alarming speed. We don't have time to waste. The door swung open, revealing a familiar face bathed in shadow, a figure I thought I had left behind, one I never expected to see here, in the depths of my family's unraveling. My heart plummeted. Emma, came the voice, a sweet familiarity tainted now with the suspicious air of secrets. I've come to help you. But with every instinct screaming at me to run, I couldn't shake the feeling that the open door held more danger than solace. With one fleeting glance between Carla and the stranger, I was left teetering on the brink of revelation. Was this another path toward salvation? Or yet another layer to the chaos enveloping my life? Why should I trust you? I found myself challenging, unwilling to abandon the vestiges of intuition igniting within me. But in that moment, shrouded in uncertainty and darkness, I realized trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. The moment Emma stepped through the threshold into the sterile room, time seemed to warp, stretching the silence taut as a bowstring. My heart pounded against my ribs like a caged bird, instinctively aware that everything was about to change again. Carla's grip tightened on my hand, a mutual reassurance, but I couldn't shake the unsettled feeling gnawing at my gut. Emma, I repeated, astonished. Conflicted emotions surged through me. Was she here as a friend or an unwelcome guest? The bittersweet taste of nostalgia mingled with trepidation. Please, I can explain everything, she rushed, her eyes darting between the three of us. You're in danger, all of you, and I know how to help. Help? I echoed incredulously, raising an eyebrow. And how do you plan to do that, Emma? By dragging us deeper into this mess? Even if I wanted to deceive you, I wouldn't dare, she replied, voice steady yet soft, urging me to reconsider. They're not looking for just your father, they want what lies beneath his power, the secrets capable of destroying everything he built. And those secrets run deeper than anyone knows. What do you mean? Carla interjected, her skepticism evident. You've been part of that world. How do we know you're not part of the problem? I'm not. Emma's eyes widened, frustration lingering in her voice. I've seen things I turned my back on it all. I've risked everything to come here because I owe it to you. To both of you. Feeling corners of my heart soften despite the tumult around us, I turned my gaze toward Carla. Her finger tapped nervously against the table, and I could sense she was on the verge of breaking. The truth was heavy, it loomed like a thundercloud, refusing to sweep away in the face of optimism. The break-in thereafter documents containing information about your father's dealings with corrupted interests. It's connected to the foundations he built his empire on, Emma explained, urgency blazing in her eyes. You have to understand, to survive this, you must confront your father's choices before they destroy you. Confront him? The notion sent chills down my spine. I can't just turn the tide against my own flesh and blood. What if the truth could save you? She pressed, a flicker of something desperate crossing her features. I came here to warn you. You still think you can protect yourself by burying your head in the sand, but it's not going to end well. I had to walk away, but it does not mean you have to suffer alone. The room felt claustrophobic, every breath steeped in shared uncertainty. Had I really been so naive to believe my father was merely misunderstood? I glanced at Carla, whose eyes reflected my fear but also a determination I hadn't realized was there. The tension was palpable when suddenly, the door rattled against its frame, sending icy fingers crawling up my spine. I exchanged panicked glances with Carla and Emma, and the man silent until now strode toward the door with a protective stance. If they've found this place, he began, but his voice trailed off as the knob turned and the door creaked open, and stepped two figures, a man and woman adorned in black to match their grave expressions. The woman's icy eyes locked onto mine and ignited a flash of déjà vu. The man, muscular and confident, leaned against the door as if it were a barricade meant to shield the chaos of the outside world. I know Emma means well, but what you need to understand is that not everyone who wears a friendly face has your best interests at heart, the man warned, his voice a low growl. And whatever you think you know about your father, it's about to get much, much worse. Behind him, shadows shifted, and a familiar figure slipped through the doorway, the third intruder. I gasped as recognition washed over me. It was Daniel, the journalist I had met months earlier, whose articles I had consumed with fascination and dread. Daniel? I hardly recognized the strength in my own voice as it quivered, bringing to the forefront memories of late-night conversations and shared vulnerabilities. Emma, you shouldn't have come, he said tersely. We need to talk, and I'm afraid that time is running out. What do you mean? I whispered, clinging to Carla's arm as realizations cascaded over me like a waterfall of ice. There is something about your father that involves all of us, secrets tied deep within the roots of his foundation. But it's worse than you think. He's involved with people who are willing to go to any length to protect what they have. Everything I believed shattered like glass, cutting deeply into my insides. An explosion of questions tangled in my mind as I searched Emma's gaze, desperation clawing at me. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from outside the door, the unmistakable crack of gunfire and the scream of shattering glass that seemed to slice through our fragile moment of clarity. What's happening? I gasped, terror lacing my words as the reality of our predicament solidified around me. I need you to trust me, even if it feels impossible right now, Daniel said, urgency flooding his tone. And we need to move. There's no time left. But as the room filled with the chaos of approaching footsteps and distant shouting, I realized that trust was already slipping through my fingers, just like the very foundation my life had been built upon. Everything I once held sacred was crumbling, hitting the ground like ashes in the wind, and as the door slammed shut behind us, I stood at the eye of a storm that was just beginning. The world outside the room spiraled into muffled chaos, but within those four walls, a suffocating tension clung to the air like an unforgiving weight. I felt as if every breath I took was a fragile thread that was fraying under the pressure of the moment. "Get down!" The man who had just arrived, Jack, yelled, drawing us towards the far corner of the room. Instinctively, we crouched low, huddling together as if we could blend into the wall behind us, our hearts racing in tandem. Clenching Carla's hand, I could see the shock in her eyes mirroring my own distress. "What do we do?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling with uncertainty. "Emma," Daniel urged, shifting his weight from one foot to the other as he cast quick glances between us and the door. "Start from the beginning, tell us everything you know." Emma nodded, her brow creasing with determination, although fear fleeted across her face. "There's a deeper conspiracy at play. Your father isn't just a businessman, he's tangled in a web of illicit deals and dangerous alliances," she began, taking a steadying breath. "I tried to expose it, but it's so complicated. People are protective of their secrets." Shouts grew nearer, and I strayed from her words as whistle-like sounds echoed overhead. Just outside, chaos erupted, and I glimpsed shadows, men shouting orders, the grinding roll of equipment, and the low hum of an engine that made my heart leap. "They're hunting for you," she continued, shaking her head as the lines around her mouth deepened. "And I was part of it. I was a pawn, and I thought I could take them down from the inside. It's a game more merciless than you can imagine." "That's why I didn't want you to come back here," Daniel interjected, his once calm demeanor shaking ever so slightly. "You shouldn't be involved. If they figure out who you really are, I don't care." I interjected, a surge of defiance washing over my despair. "This isn't just about me anymore, it never was. I need to understand what is happening, and how my father fits into this mess." In a rare moment of stillness amidst the storm around us, Emma's eyes locked onto mine, their depths swirling with pity and understanding. "You need to prepare yourself for a truth you might not want to accept. Your father," her voice trembled before she pressed on, "he's not the man you think he is. The empire he built comes at a cost, a very steep cost." My mind reeled as the implications of her words clawed mercilessly at the edges of my consciousness. I had spent my life idolizing my father, overshadowed by the grandeur of his success. But what if that success had a dark origin? As the footsteps echoed closer, my heart sank into the pit of my stomach. What if he turned into something monstrous, then? I asked, barely managing the thought. "What if he did the things you're suggesting?" In response, Emma offered a stony gaze. "Wisdom lies in knowing that good people can falter. Love can blind us to the truth. Sometimes, it can even drive us to become the very monster we fear." Her words cut deep, and I pulled myself closer to Carla, who now seemed oddly serene amidst the chaos, as if she'd found her resolve. "We have to think strategically," she whispered, a flicker of steel in her voice. "We can't just wait here, we need to make a plan." Before anyone could respond, the door burst open, a hulking figure filling the entrance, backlit by the fluorescent lights in the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. It was one of the men I'd seen from the outside, his features hardened and menacing. "Cancel the meeting," he barked, glaring at us as he scanned the room with the precision of a predator. "The CEO's daughter doesn't escape. Run." Jack's voice sliced through the tension, snapping us back into motion. We surged toward the adjacent door, driven by sheer instinct. I found myself propelled forward, uncertainty racing alongside adrenaline. Carla and I stumbled through the threshold, my heart thundering as I glanced back to see Daniel standing firm, a barrier between us and our pursuer. "Go!" he yelled, urgency amplifying his voice. As he tried to distract the intruders, buying us precious seconds. As we dashed down the dim corridor, my thoughts churned wildly. The layers of illusion that surrounded my father seemed to peel away with each hurried step, revealing a reality I was terrified to face. "Where do we go?" I gasped, struggling to keep pace. "Find the maintenance stairs," Carla cried, dragging me towards a seemingly endless stretch of bleak linoleum. I could feel the weight of each choice we made pressing heavily upon our chests, suffocating hope, while the shadows of truth loomed larger behind us. Suddenly, a voice cracked from behind Jack, his breath ragged but resolute. "They're coming." We plunged through an open door into a narrow stairwell, panic overtaking us as we climbed blindly. Each step felt heavier, our resolve tested by the obstacles we faced and the revelations buried within the very foundation of my life. "Wait!" Carla exclaimed as we reached a landing, a hint of fear flickering in her eyes. "What if we're leading them right to your father's secrets?" And that when a sudden realization hit me with the force of a freight train. What if my father knows we're doing this? What if he's the one who sent them? What if the danger lies within the walls of my own home? The sound of footsteps echoed down the stairwell, and my heart plummeted, not just for our safety, but for what it might mean to uncover my father's true identity. The uncertainty stretched endlessly before us. With each dire question left unanswered, an intimate betrayal brewed underneath the rush of survival. As I stood at the threshold of the next floor, the weight of what lay ahead loomed ominously in the air, mingling despair with a sliver of hope. Perhaps uncovering the truth was the only way to shield myself from the legacy of a man I once thought I could trust. But would it lead to our salvation or our ruin? With a shared glance among us, I understood that any glimpse of hope rested precariously on the edge of the unknown, pending a reckoning we were not yet ready to face. I could feel the cold air seeping through the cracks of the staircase, an icy reminder that we were stepping into a realm unlike anything I had imagined. With each hesitant step forward, I felt the weight of all that had transpired bearing down not just the danger surrounding us but the turmoil rippling through the fabric of my identity. "Keep moving," I urged, the fear coiling tighter around my heart as I led Carla up the staircase, her trust in me both a comfort and a burden. The distant echoes of chaos reverberated around us, but one thought consumed my mind: if my father truly was at the center of this storm, if he indeed thrived within its chaos, then everything I had clung to as truth might be distorted beyond recognition. I pressed my palm against the cool steel of the railing, trying to focus as my heart raced. "What do we do?" I whispered, hoping my question would somehow conjure an answer. Stumbled into a dimly lit corridor, the flickering fluorescent lights casting shifting shadows, amplifying the tension coursing through my body. "We need a plan," I insisted, trying to anchor myself amidst the uncertainty. "We can't expose ourselves, and we can't betray what my father has built if I'm sure he's manipulating things from within." Carla's eyes flashed with insight tinged by frustration. "But if he's responsible for everything happening out there, if those men want you because of him, then maybe it's time we start confronting the lies. You're not alone in this. We need to protect you first." Just as I opened my mouth to agree, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, trembling like a living thing, cutting through the taut air around us. I dragged it out amidst the chaos, the screen illuminating my face. The message was from an unknown number: "They're coming for you. Trust only those who truly care." "Who is it?" Carla peered at my screen, her face etched with concern. "I don't know," I breathed, the shadows of uncertainty swirling around me. "But it feels ominous." The echoes of hurried footsteps reminded us that we had little time. I swallowed hard, my thoughts racing. We can't keep running. We must turn the tables somehow. And that was when I understood, like a crashing wave revealing hidden shores. If my father is tangled in dangerous dealings, if he's constructing this false reality to protect himself, then we need to unearth the truth. But first, we need proof. I turned to Carla, resolve hardening my features like armor. "But how?" Her eyes glimmered with determination as an idea sparked. "What about our old school? The journalism department recorded all the past interviews and dealings within our family. They may have overlooked some of his public connections." A flicker of hope ignited within my chest, but a pulse of fear followed. "But that'll require access, and not just the physical kind. We need to bypass security." "Then let us move," she urged, and with that, we descended further into the depths of uncertainty, the tension between us an unbreakable bond. The stairwell transformed into shadows kissing neon light until we finally emerged into a crowded hallway. It was packed with students, unaware of the tumult threatening to engulf my life. A blend of nostalgia and fear clung to the air as I spotted the entrance to the journalism department down the corridor, its doors promising sanctuary amid the chaos outside. "Let us stick together," I whispered, scanning the area for anyone who might pose a threat. But my heart ached, fearing each familiar face I saw. Would they understand the gravity of our situation? We slipped into the journalism room, brightened by warm hues and decorated with past articles, the humor juxtaposed against the dread blanketing my soul. It felt surreal, but we had no time to become sentimental. "Emma," Carla began, a plot forming in her mind. "If we create a scan to connect all the dots from your father's dealings, maybe we can prepare ourselves for what comes next." So, I focused my energy on digging deep into the archives, the words, the interviews, anything that could reveal the cracks I had been blind to. I rifled through the documents, piecing together fragments, but a sinking sensation dawned as more pages hinted at scandals, the receipts of power plays and dirty deals glossed over by my father. "This is it, Carla," I exclaimed, adrenaline vibrating through my veins. "The connections are all here. They're all connected, men in suits, the whispers of deceit blending into one vile cooperation." As we began to make sense of it all, the atmosphere shifted. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a figure loomed at the threshold. It was Jack, his face pale and taut with urgency. "They've breached security," he barked, a grunt of determination lifting his muscles, forcing us to act. "We need to get you out now." I glanced at Carla, the determination in her eyes matching my own even as we struggled against our fear. Jack positioned himself midway through the doorway, shielding us as we gathered whatever information we could, but I felt it, the world closing in around us with insistent urgency. My phone buzzed again, vibrating off the table, and I fumbled to grab it. This time, it was a video link, accompanied by a message, "Listen closely for the truth." My heart raced as I hit play. My father's face filled the screen, and the sound mingled with troubling undertones of deception. "The people who oppose us wish to tarnish our name, they want what is ours. Understand that loyalty is a game, and in this game, your true family is the only one that matters." As the video played, the fractures grew wider than I'd ever envisioned. His words wove deceit, coated in a sense of self-righteousness effortlessly. I felt cold and terrified. Had I fallen prey to his manipulation for too long? "Emma." Carla's voice sliced through the fog surrounding me. "We need to go." "Wait," I managed, the implications crashing down on me as I turned to her and Jack. "We can't allow him to control the narrative. We must expose this." But even as the truths enveloped us like ashes from a burned bridge, footsteps thundered beyond the door. There was no time. "Grab the files," I ordered, urgency spilling from every syllable as we rushed to gather documents that might hold the power to tip the scales. "What we need to do, we must not only survive but expose him to the world." And just as our hands intertwined around the truths waiting to erupt, the door crashed open, mercifully scattering papers into the air like confetti, the truth set free in that fleeting moment as our world turned to chaos. I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through me, propelling me forward as I sprinted past Jack, Carla at my side. "Open the loading dock." Jack pressed. I could see the anxiety in his eyes as he guided us toward an exit. "No," I screamed, unable to face the reality of it all. "What if we don't make it?" But my words were lost to the din of chaos erupting around us. Cries rang out as figures surged through the hallway, shadows now infiltrating every corner of the truth we thought we held. Then, like a bolt of lightning, it struck me. Tom's name echoed in my mind. Would I ever know if what I had felt was genuine or just another layer to cover buried secrets? I was spinning out of control, each breath a reminder of choices I had thought I could navigate with certainty. But it wasn't the time for doubt. I had pushed through the shadows long enough, it was now or never. "We have to believe," I shouted, my heart hammering as I faced Carla and Jack, their faces illuminated with determination. Panic surged as a figure lunged for us, and my instincts kicked in. We hurled ourselves toward the exit, barreling through just as gunfire erupted and chaos unraveled behind us. Outside was a world teetering on the edge of devastation, a world where everything I thought I valued was at stake. Amidst it all, my heart raced, not just out of fear but with a flicker of hope. The intoxicating promise of liberation melted amidst the chaos. Suddenly, there he was. Tom. Standing on the other side of the street, eyes scanning desperately for me. Emma. The heartbeat of my existence thudded in my ears, the world collapsing around us as I rushed towards him, uncertainty riding the crest of despair. But it was then, amid the cacophony dying down and the shadows fading, amid the ruins of worlds crashing, I felt it in the depths of my being. What if we could forge a new story from the ashes? One noticeably messy but still alive with the essence of who we could become, complexities and all. And deeper still, could love exist without illusions, built on truth instead of fear? I ran fast, fueled by the very essence of possibility, catching Tom's silhouette among the chaos. I reached for him, together bound by the crooked tales of our past, determined to write the future we truly deserved. Emma. He shouted again, desperation ringing clear as our eyes met across the distance. And as I closed the gap between us, I finally understood the threads of trust weaved amongst tears and jubilation were dangerously tender but eternally resilient. This was a journey not just of survival, but of transformation. As I reached Tom, I saw it, the unspoken promise gleaming beneath the surface, daring us to step into the storm together, to rise against the shadows that threatened to devour us whole, and finally, with our hearts tethered to the truth we had uncovered, uncertain yet fiercely alive, words tumbled from my lips, raw and reflective. Whatever happens next, we do this together. As those words hung in the air, I felt the warmth of hope igniting a kaleidoscope of possibilities. It was a beginning and an end, simple yet profound. It was a choice as we crossed the threshold back into the world, not just surviving but reclaiming every scar we bore. All the while, beneath the storm of chaos, the world awaited something beautiful amidst the wreckage, the truth that love could still defy the shadows and bind us. If only the heart could remember that its real strength isn't just in surviving, it's about forging connection amid life's intricacies. As we stood together facing the horizon, I felt the beginnings of something new. With every breath, I whispered to the universe this was our story to write, and no one could take that away.